started. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Supriya Singh, and I'm honored today to introduce our speaker, Murli Melwani. So, as a young boy, fresh out of college, Murli worked in his father's department store in Shillong. Now, Shillong is this little hill town up near the border of Myanmar and China, close to that. So we are talking way east. So he went on after his college to earn his master's degree and started teaching English at Shankar Dev College. It wasn't very long before Murli opened his own bookstore. And in his own words, Murli said, "One meets the best people in a bookshop." You'll probably hear more about that. Anyway, between the two commitments, teaching and managing the bookstore, Murli would write stories. So he lived in Shillong for 40 years, and since then he has been a nomad. He moved first to Taiwan with his family, with his wife Mona and 2 young children, and his son is here. Welcome. How often is it that we get to see our grown kids come to our events? So it's really nice.
Thank you.
You're very special. And after that, he moved to Taiwan, where he lived for 25 years. From then, he went to Miami for 2 years, and then Texas for 11 years. And finally, he reached the shores of the Bay Area and landed in Foster City 6 years ago. We are so happy he lives with us here today. And I'm proud to say that he has been a Foster City Village member for the past 6 years, ever since he came to town. Murli has authored 7 books in total, drawing on his nomadic experiences from all over the world. And for this, he has received lavish praise for his writing. I quote from the magazine of contemporary literature, Wasafiri, that one, published from London. They wrote, and I quote, "The chief attraction of Melwani's book remains the portfolio on writers and their short stories. This aspect of the book is both wide-ranging and painstaking, and brings to notice, amongst others, several obscure, forgotten, or little-known works. Where Melwani's distinction is the clearing a trail on the road less traveled in Indian literary circles." Second quote from Books Abroad, the University of Oklahoma Press. They wrote, "The stories in Stories of a Salesman are not the stories with complex plots, so much as they are sketches after the manner of Lafcadio Hearn." He's this famous guy. "Sharp vignettes of the daily round of average Indian people." Today he will speak to us about his writing journey from the beginning to where he is now. Everyone, please welcome Murli.
Thank you, Supriya. And you mentioned that I'm among you here and that you're happy to have me. Well, the feeling is mutual. I'm happy to be in this crowd, and I'm happy that Foster City Village has allowed me to assimilate. This was one of my ambitions, and I will also mention that I'm writing a memoir where the Foster City Village, my American Indian friends, my Alcove Book Club, and all the other institutions, not forgetting my yoga teacher, who have helped me to assimilate. I will talk about that later. But first, when we think of writing, we become aware of 2 connotations. there are many species in this beautiful world of ours. However, they communicate with each other by sound. Human beings are the only species which louder? Okay. The human beings are the only species who have turned sound into visible form in the form of words and writing. Now, writing is a kind of a gift to us because we are able to use our senses to observe this beautiful world of ours and to then take it and then perhaps enjoy it, or if there are painters, they paint it, and if humble scribes like me, we do something about appreciating nature. Now, so words are like a currency, and human beings use currency as a way to communicate with each other. Now, if we look closer, we see that writing is a part of so many daily activities. Composing an email, typing a tweet, and I mean that's for the young people, and the only two young people here, except the other, what do you call it? The recycled young people are also with me, and I'm part of that. So now, whether we are composing an email or sending a fax or sitting down to pen an old-fashioned letter to somebody, it does come. It helps us. So, I think that writing is a gift that we human beings have given each other. It is part of our shared humanness, and I'm very grateful for that. Now, all of us live in 3 time zones at the same time, not simultaneously, but I'll explain that. We can look at the past, and we live in the past. I sometimes think, oh, what a lovely time Mona and I had when we went with our friends on a cruise to Alaska. And the present, I'm talking to all of you. And the past, Supriya forgot to tell you that I had told her that when Elon Musk colonizes Mars, Mona and my family, my son, daughter, grandchildren, we might move there. I haven't made up my mind about that as yet. And so this brings us to journaling. What happens is if we were to start journaling, we would be writing down the thoughts and the feelings and whatever occurs to us, so that we would continue to live. Human beings would always be living in the present. Not that there's anything wrong with living in the past and the future and the present, but living in the present will perhaps give us more joy. Now, having said that, journaling is going to help all of us. So if you can take it up, it would be very good. Now, since we were talking about the present, at the present moment, I can't recall when I fell in love with books. By the time I turned 16, I had graduated from being a bookworm to a library worm. Now, I will tell you an embarrassing incident, but it's okay. You guys will enjoy it. In Shillong, as she said, it's a small town, and the library, the public library over there, has the security they have is not like what we have here, and that was a long time ago also. We had an old, wizened veteran. At 7:55, he would go down the hallway, thumping his baton on the wooden floor and saying, 5 minutes more, we close, 5 minutes more, we close. I was sitting in a very comfy armchair, and I had reached a very interesting part of the book I was reading. So I said, in 5 minutes I'll finish it easily. It's not a big problem. And then the next thing that happened, I look up and I see the moon is shining from the wall window. I looked at my watch. It was 10:30 p.m. I let out a small, mild expletive, and then I said, okay, now that I'm here, if you can't cure it, you endure it. So the rest of the night was spent in dozing off, reading a few pages and dozing off. In the morning, I sneaked into the nearest restroom in case I was caught. And when I came out, I had puffed out my chest as if I'm just coming into just coming into the library. Now, what happened was then, Now, when we talk about books, I'm very happy to say that the Foster City Library carries one of my books, one collection. It's called Ladders Against the Sky. And these stories, as Supriya told you, that I have been all over the place, a nomad. So the stories are a gift of my travels, and I'll tell you later why I have to travel so much. And then I find there are stories set in the different countries I visited. The ones set in the USA and Canada deal with displacement and change. Those set in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, and Chile deal with expatriates who have been molded by the culture and the economics of that particular country. Then the third set of stories that I have written are set in India. And those set in India sort of reflect the contradictions of living in a country where modernity and tradition exist side by side, and science and superficial exist side by side. We are going to the moon, but sometimes some of our villages don't have water. So the stories are not critical of any particular country, not India also, but they reflect the conditions that prevail in a particular country. That is where this particular book talks about. Then the next thing that I would like to speak about is, all of you have heard a saying, let me put it this way, that every person is allowed one craziness. I'll tell you what my craziness was. Note, it was, not is. It was this. I took 27 years to write a book. This is a book, and then its next avatar is no, not this one. Anyway, I'm confused at this moment, so it's all right. But I hope I can hold my thread of thought. And so, why did it take so long to write this book? I love short stories, and I decided, I looked at the literary scene in India in the 1970s, and there were commentaries and literary criticism of novels written in English by Indians. There were commentaries on Indian poets, poems,
Poetry.
yeah, who had written collection, and there were plays in which the dialogue was in English. There was no commentary or no literary criticism on the short story. And so I decided that, well, here's an opportunity for me. Why don't I try to fill the gap? Some of you, I think all of you, have heard this saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Well, I justified myself. I said, it's okay. I love this form, and I'm going to contribute to it. The situation, let me acquaint you with the situation. And of course, we shouldn't be surprised. In most countries, the short story is regarded as the stepchild of literature. It is put on the side. So then that was the situation there. And what did I do then? I went out, bought all the short story collections which were available in the store there. I ordered some, and I looked up some kind of catalogs where out-of-print books were there, and the libraries which might have old books. So I started with that, and I started taking notes and putting them together, and this took me some time. Then it so happened that as Supriya said, I made a mid-career change to Taiwan. I went with my wife Mona, my son Arvind, and my daughter, and over there I headed an export company. So, and one of my duties was to travel to different countries, increase the clientele, and also to book orders. We used to, our sources were China and Taiwan. So that helped me to sort of see the world and meet different people, and I got an idea of how different communities live, and I'll talk about the Indians later. That comes up because Indians are all over the world, as you can see. So I started with that, and over there, the only bookshop at that time was sold. There was one, Caves, and most of the books in English they sold were about how to teach English, how to learn English. So what I would do is I would order some of these the books I needed from India, or if a friend was going to visit that place, visiting India, I would give them a list of books, and that is how I was able to, my workbooks began to pile up, and they became almost a mini library in my house, but that's another story. And then in 2007, we moved to Dallas, and over there I had the leisure to put my notes together and bring out a book. And that is this. It came out in 2009. It received very good reviews, as Supriya has read out. There are more, but I didn't want to load Supriya with too many reviews. So I gave her only 2 and she quoted those. Now, the print edition ran out in 2015. So I wrote to the publisher, look, let's bring out a reprint. The publisher said, your earlier book is still 1980. We need something up to at least 2015 or 2012. Now, I had given 27 years to my first baby. I felt I didn't have the stamina to carry on, and so the publisher also did not print the book. So as they say, if there's a problem, in the Chinese language, the word for problem and for solution is the same. So I said, since this is a problem, and I've lived in Taiwan, there must be a solution. I did find a solution, and the solution was this. In San Francisco, there is a website called Academic Edu, EDU. It is similar to the internet, the archive internet. So what I did was I uploaded the PDF on their site, and I did it on 2019. In between, I did other things. And here's an amazing fact. The Indian edition, the print edition, in 6 years sold, going by the royalty statements I got, 1,250 copies only. Between 2019 and 2024, there have been 2,026 hits in just 5 years. So I'm raising this point to suggest that if any of you have written an article, written a paper, or even published, have written a book, or are thinking of writing a book, I would strongly recommend that you put your book on academia.edu, and you will have a very wide readership. So that was where that is concerned. Then after that, let me tell you. Yes, the print. Okay, there's another collection of stories over here. This one, it's called, it's Beyond the Rainbow. Now, the story behind it is this, that I belong to an ethnic group called Sindhis. In 1947, when Sindh was, the British decided to divide India on the basis of religion. And so they got hold of an academic from Oxford who had never visited India. He sat down on a map and he drew a line arbitrarily. So that what happened was that my kitchen might have fallen in one country and your restroom would have fallen in another country. However, what they did, it was a time of great turbulence at that time, and a lot of elements over there, bad elements, would forcibly take over the homes of Hindu Sindhis, and if the person didn't give up his home, they threatened to rape their wives or their daughters. So most of the Sindhis fled. They first landed in India, and then they went out and they've found contacts all over the world, a friend or perhaps another Sindhi, another Indian, and so they relocated to different parts of the world. They sort of prospered over there, and what I did was I found that most of them were sad that they had lost their homeland. Some of them said that if they get a chance to go and see the place, they will do so. However, the impression I got was that there was a lot of loss in many ways, like there was a lot of nostalgia among them, and their children began to learn the local language and could not speak the mother tongue. So if we lose a language, we lose a part of culture also. So my stories are about this book. This book has also got good reviews. I'm very happy to say that. Then there was another book also which was picked up by a publisher who sort of doesn't concentrate on domestic sales, but he sort of attends book fairs all over the world, and he takes it over like that. So this was a book in India-centric, a lot of Indian stories, all the stories here are about India, and it has been exhibited in many countries, including China and Paris. So that was the story about this book. And I have also, yes, there's another point about this book. In India, there is the National Academy of Letters. It's called the Sahitya Academy. So they chose to have a discussion on 10 Sindhi writers who don't live in India, who live overseas, and who have contributed, not in their mother tongue, but they in the country where they live, France, Germany, England, or whatever. And so I couldn't go. I was invited to go. The invitation is in Hindi and in Urdu, 2 Indian languages. I couldn't go, so I asked the publisher to attend on my behalf, and she did a great job. So I'm lucky that way. I also wrote a 3-act play. The reviews said the first act was excellent, but the second and the third were terrible letdowns. So it was never staged, but luckily publisher took it up and came out. Where is it? Yes. This one, this is the book. And it was, fortunately the publisher was able to bring it out, and it was never staged. But that is okay, what can we do with that? And now I want to come to the collection that I brought out in this year, 2024. Now, it so happened that I wrote a book at the age of, I wrote a book at the age of 28, and these were stories which I had written between well, anyway, they were for the period from 21 to 28. The first edition was in 1967, and it got a good review. You read out the second review about Oklahoma, the books abroad. Now, it was a very good review, and the reviewer compared me to Lafcadio Hearn, as she told you. So it was a very deep, sort of pleasure, not only my pleasure, but I felt that yes, this is good. I have been able to, maybe I might not have a mature vision, but at least I have done something that has been appreciated. That was in 1967. The publisher brought out a second edition in 1969, after 12 years. And then, I don't know how it did, because by that time I left India. However, lately I was reading it about 3 or 4 months. It brought back memories. Earlier in the talk I told you that we live in the past and the future. Although I say I must live in the present, it doesn't happen. So sometimes I live in the past also. So I said these stories are good. And this edition has come out both in hardback and paperback this year. So that is how, I forgot to tell you, about the book, which was, about this book, it was reviewed by the University of Oklahoma, the magazine. They bring out books abroad. And the irony was that 40 years later, after 1967, Mona, I, my son and daughter, we moved to Plano, Texas. So, and we lived there for a thing. So I don't know if this was a foreboding of what is to come, but I'm not going to get superstitious about that. So that was that, and now I would like to tell you that my wife, Mona, is also a writer, and she's also a writer. She taught at the Taipei American School for 18 years. Then she felt burnout, and so I told her, yeah, you can quit. But she didn't want to remain idle at home. She said that I must write a book, because I'll tell you how she became a writer. So she said that, look, during the time that there are parent and student conferences, it's a hard time for teachers. They have often to say many difficult things in words which are as true, and it doesn't hurt anybody's sentiment. So she wrote this book, and it was published in 2002 by Scholastic New York. The shelf life of my books is 6 or 7 years. This book is still bringing in a trickle of royalties, say $20 a year, but for so many years, 22 years, it has been selling, because it is sold in schools in England, in Australia, New Zealand, overseas. So I'm very proud that my wife has outdone me now. And she also wrote another book when she was in Shillong. Shillong, as they say, is the beat capital of India. So she was always interested in music. She would attend these beat contests and then write reports which were published in a magazine called JS, Junior Statesman, which was a publication of the Statesman, Calcutta. And she would not only write reports about them, but she started writing stories about the young people and their problems and this. And this book was published, and it is still available at Amazon. And now, to add a lighter touch, she also wrote a book in Taiwan, because we couldn't get Indian spices at that time. So when people were going to Hong Kong, we would give lists and they would bring the spices back. So she said, we must write a book, Indian cooking overseas. And just use your imagination and see who would have been the guinea pig of all the... And then I would also like to, I'm working on a memoir now, and I'm polishing it. I'll read an extract from it, but before that, I want to tell you that how I almost didn't get married to Mona. It would have been a loss for me because both of us are writers and we have common memories. So, it so happened, as I told you, my first love is books. Now, my father and mother lived in a very cold place, and every year during winter, when it was very cold here, they would go down to Bombay. In fact, Mumbai now. In fact, a lot, just as the sweat birds of Canada go to Florida, the Sindhis who live in different parts of the world, because business is dull, in December they fly out to Bombay. And so some enterprising people have set themselves up as matchmakers. So they're all flocked there, and they say, oh, I have a daughter to get married, and somebody will say, I've got a son to get married. And the matchmakers would then assess the financial and other standings of a particular party and then try to match them. So my father used to go there, and when I was 24, he started saying that, oh, the matchmaker has given me a good girl for you, so and so, and I would refuse for 4 years. Then, when I was 28 years old, he said, here, sit you down. What kind of a girl do you want? So, I thought I was smart. Since ours is a mercantile community, I said that, and they don't let the women, they train them as homebodies. So I said, I'll stump my dad saying that I want a writer. So 2 years later, he said, I have found a writer for you. But even then I doubted it. So then I said, I want to see a piece of her writing. Sri Lanka, Mona comes from Sri Lanka. Luckily, her sister was there, and she sent over. She used to write middles in a paper called the Ceylon Observer at that time. Now it's Sri Lanka. So then I was convinced. I went to meet her. And you know how these meetings take place at a restaurant or in the matchmaker's home. And so we went to a restaurant. Some relations of Mona came with us, some relations from my side also. So Mona's mother wanted to show her that she's a homely type of person. So she told her, make Murli a cup of tea. In a restaurant, the tea liquor comes in a pot, the sugar comes in a small bowl, and the milk comes separately. So Mona put the thing together, and since I come from a cold place, I was used to drinking very hot tea. So over there, she kept stirring it and stirring it and stirring it and stirring it, and when she gave me that cup of tea, it was stone cold. But being the gentleman, which I assume I am, I told her, I paid you a compliment. Aren't you going to say thank you at least? She didn't answer. I said, I just said something to you. She said, I reserve the right to thank anybody. The left side of my brain and the right side of my brain went into a debate. Now in Congress, a person can talk for hours, but over there, when you are sitting there, your parents are looking at you, the girl's parents are looking at you, the matchmaker is looking at you. You have got only 5 seconds to make a decision. So what did I do? One side of the head said that, look, if she's so forward now, she'll hold you on a leash. The other side said that, well, she's so outspoken, she'll become your ladder to success. So this debate was going on. However, what I did, I tossed a mental coin and it said yes. So I have been married for 54 years with her, but I'll say I'm very happy. She's been a companion in every way, and she has given me 2 lovely children. So that is that. Now, I would like to read an extract from the memoir I'm writing. The memoir it's called Assimilating Becoming American. Somebody says, you must call it Sweetening America, one of my close friends. And somebody says, no, just leave it as Becoming American. The extract is from the first chapter. And the first chapter in that book is Mona and me at the naturalization ceremony. And that ceremony, if some of you remember, it can be very moving because there's an adoptive mother there. And so I'll read out, it's a short extract. And what happens at that stage when you see so many speakers who say our parents had the foresight to bring us here, and we were raised in this country where you're free to do what you like. So I'll read out the, would you like to read it out for me?
No, go ahead.
Okay. With the Pledge of Allegiance, the emotion, that means I was already feeling emotion, muted into an intellectual experience, the watershed of a consciously arrived at decision, the desire to live in a place where one is allowed to give full play to one's gifts, talents, skills, and abilities freely, while respecting the same right in others, where one is not treated as a foreigner in a part of one's own country because one comes from another province or a state, where punctuality, civic responsibility, honesty, and political accountability are held, where the rule of law deals fairly but firmly with terrorists who see violence, not negotiation, as a solution. The then President of the United States, George Bush II, appeared on the screen and welcomed us. His speech, I'm quoting an extract from his speech. Our country has never been united by blood or birth or soil. We are bound by principles that move us beyond our backgrounds, lift us above our interests, and teach us what it means to be citizens. By the time, this is the author speaking again, by the time America the Beautiful started to play, I felt that the red carpet had been laid out specially for me and Mona. I imagined that there were many in the hall who felt exactly as I did. Had I turned around to look at the row of faces by my side or behind me, a gallery of variegated features, a wide spectrum of skin color, I knew I too would have pearly eyes. Tears barely held back. I saw them in my wife, Mona's eyes, as she leaned her head on my shoulder and intertwined her fingers in mine. An old story flashed into my mind. In the 8th century, a community from Iran who were persecuted by the Muslim rulers and who later came to be known as Parsi